Mic on.
Got
Good morning and welcome to the in-person Community and Neighborhood Enhancement Advisory Board meeting on January 4th, 2021. I'm Jason Johnston, sitting in for Hal McKnight this morning. Thanks for joining us for the Oklahoma City Community and Neighborhood Enhancement Advisory Board meeting. We have a few announcements to make regarding this in-person meeting. The following safety guidelines are in place during the COVID-19 pandemic for meetings in the council chamber at City Hall. Face coverings are required throughout the building. Disposable face masks will be available. Only the south entrance to the City Hall will be open. Temperature checks will be required upon entry. Meeting attendees are required to sign a log for contact tracing purposes. Chamber doors will be marked entrance and exit. Air purifying machines will be in the chamber. Hand sanitizer machines will be available. Seating for up to 33 people will be available in the chamber. Up to 3 people can sit in an open pew. Family groups may sit together and exceed the limit of 3 people per pew. If needed, overflow seating will be available on the 3rd and 2nd floor lobbies, and the chamber will be cleaned and sanitized daily. Citizens may address the board on certain items by signing up to speak and providing the agenda item number and reason for appearing, but all comments must be relevant to the item. Citizens may also address the board on individual concerns at the end of the agenda when the chairman asks if there are any comments by citizens. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes. The chairman may, in his or her discretion, prohibit a person from addressing the board or have any person removed from the council chamber if that person commits any disorderly or disruptive behavior, which includes, without limitation, any of the following: speaking without being recognized by the chairman or presiding officer, continuing to speak after the notice that the speaker allotted time has expired, presenting comments or material not relevant to the item under the discussion, failing to comply with the lawful instructions of the chairman, engaging in other conduct, activity, or speech that delays, disrupts, or interferes with the effective or timely conduct of the meeting. A person may also be subject to arrest and removal from the municipal building if he or she violates Oklahoma City Municipal Code 2020-3081, disorderly conduct. I will now call the meeting to order once I silence my cell phone. First, we need to approve, it's item 2, we need to approve the minutes for the October 5th, 2020 and November 2nd, 2020 meetings. This does require a vote. Moved by Sandino Thompson, seconded by Don Noble. The action is approved. Number 3, items for consideration, street resurfacing projects, status update, Brock Middle.
Good morning. We welcome you to the first Community and Neighborhood Enhancement Advisory Board meeting of 2021. We hope you and your family had a blessed holiday season. In today's meeting, our staff will provide project updates in each individual sales tax category, as well as ask for your consideration of budget revisions in arterial resurfacing, sidewalks, and bicycle infrastructure. After a number of months meeting in a virtual format, it is good to be able to host you again in the renovated City Council chambers. We truly appreciate not only your patience, but the assistance we received from fellow city personnel to allow those virtual meetings to occur. Please stop us this morning at any time with questions or comments, and we will be glad to answer. With that, I would like to introduce Brock Miner, who will guide us through the resurfacing items.
Thank you, Mike. Good morning. As always, we start with our allocation map, and the excess collections have been put into each one of the allocations, and we can see that everything's pretty close to full in the high 90s, and we have a few categories, street enhancements and bicycle infrastructure, that have some room for some allocations, and I'm sure we'll be bringing those things forward to you pretty soon. And that brings us to item 3A1, which is street resurfacing projects, our status update map. And like always, we see more and more green, which shows completed projects. And those completed projects are finishing out. We have a few of the red projects that are in construction and very little blue projects, which we'll be getting those out shortly as well. If there's any questions, y'all stop me or I'll just keep going. Thank y'all. And that brings us to item 3A2, street resurfacing projects. This is a recommended budget revision. From time to time, I come to y'all and we run into issues on these projects. We get in there and we figure out that there's some issues going on. This particular project is bounded by I-44, Southwest 89th, May, Southwest 74th, and it's the southeast quadrant of that square mile. In this particular instance, we go in there and we start to kind of address the issues. We always know that there's going to be some potholes and some areas that we need to address, and usually those are, some kind of base failure, some kind of unsuitable subgrade. And as we'll take a loaded truck and we'll do a lot of proof roll. This particular project, we saw about half of the streets really pumping and moving, and so we kind of knew that there's a pretty extensive unsuitable subgrade issues going on. In those instances, we try to do a full rebuild on those streets, get down there, dig out the unsuitable subgrade and try to put back in ag base or stabilize that subgrade to make it much better, suitable material for a road surface. And so as we're in there, we just figure out that we're definitely going to overrun our estimate, and therefore that's the reason for the budget revision today.
Are there any questions of Brock? This requires a vote. We recommend the budget revision PR 191819 of an increase of 482. Do I have a second? Seconded by Sandino Thompson. Moved by Sandino Thompson, seconded by Michael Taylor. Vote. Please
Thank
vote.
you all very much. And that brings up item 3B1 and street enhancements, and I'll turn that over to Lakeisha Dunbar.
The motion is recommended as approved.
Good morning, Lakeisha Dunbar, Transportation Program Planner with the Planning Department. Glad to be with you in front of you this morning and not on the computer virtually. And this morning I'd like to start with the street enhancement status, street enhancement project status. Next slide. Next slide. Starting with the 10th and Vermont project, I'm going to start with the projects that had the most progress underway. The 10th and Vermont project is under construction, and all of the concrete work to include the sidewalk and ramps are complete, and the traffic signal installation has begun. Project number 5, North Portland Avenue. The traffic study has been completed, and the design team is meeting with the city's traffic management division to evaluate the findings and recommend a course of action. It is anticipated the recommendation will require consideration of approval from the Traffic Commission and City Council. Project number 6, Northwest 39th Street. The bid was awarded to Connolly Paving on December 8th. And the work order was issued December 23rd. Construction is expected to be completed at fall of 2021. And project number 10, Auto Alley. The consultant and Public Works should finalize the contract anytime now. In a few weeks, planning staff will circulate a survey to the area stakeholders to solicit update feedback about the key elements of the project before design work begins. And those are the 4 projects that have had the most progress. All of the other projects on the list are under design currently or still in the scoping phases, particularly the Northeast 23rd Street. We're working on the scoping of that as we continue to identify additional funding for that project. That completes my update on the status of the street enhancement projects. Are there any questions?
Ms. Dunbar, do you have an idea on potential timeline for, say, project number 9, Meridian Avenue? I know it's just currently in design.
I do not have a timeline, but I can get one sent out to you.
Okay, I appreciate that.
Are there any other questions on the street enhancement projects? Okay, I'd like to move on to the next item, which is item 3C1, sidewalk project status. CEC is progressing very well on all of the sidewalk projects. I believe most of all of them are are complete, or particularly, say, starting with the parks projects, all but one project is completed. One is under construction, but that one is at about 96% complete. The PPA projects are complete. There's one that's preparing for final acceptance, and about 2 that are under punch lists and complete, and then there are 3 that are completely done. Under the transit projects, we have 1 that is complete and 1 is 94% complete, and it was delayed due to ice storm progress. The schools projects, We have one that's in pre-construction and anticipated for an early January start. The rest, there are about 3 that are under final acceptance, 1 that's under punch list, and 1 that's 1% complete, and then there are 4 that are completely done under the schools category. And then the downtown sidewalks are estimated completion. We've got some first phase of those are estimated to be completed, I believe, about March. And that is the status of the sidewalk projects. Are there any questions on the status of the sidewalk projects? Next slide, please. So I'd like to move on to we do have a project that is, a couple of sidewalk projects that do have requests for budget amendments, budget adjustments. The first project is the Windsor 2 sidewalk project. All of the information has been provided in your packets, the details. We are asking for an increase of $261,000 for the Windsor 2 sidewalk projects. This request is primarily based on the need where there are lots of driveways, a number of driveways, and this is a neighborhood area, so we intended to impact a lot of driveways, and so that impacts the cost of the project. I'd like to state that also for this project, this is one that we've been working in conjunction with the bond project. There's the Ann Arbor Road project that we've been able to coordinate, and it kind of pick up the difference in some areas. So at this time, staff is requesting an increase of $261,000 for the Windsor 2 sidewalks. Are there any questions?
I'm very sorry. Had my mic off. The motion was moved by Anthony Carfang and seconded by Don Noble. It has passed. On to number 3.
All right, thank you. The next sidewalk project that we are requesting a budget amendment for, adjustment for, is the Ralph Downs sidewalk. And this is I believe, a school area sidewalk, and we're asking for a $21,000 increase on the budget for this project. Are there any questions?
Seconded by Chris Dahlgren, waiting for a vote. Everyone vote, please. The motion's passed. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
On to number 4.
Thank you. The third sidewalk project is the Harvest Hills sidewalk project. It's a school area project, and this one we are requesting an increase of $15,000.
Do we have a motion for this? Moved by Anthony Carfang and waiting for a second. Seconded by Don Noble. Everyone, please vote. This passed. Thank you very much. On to number 5.
Okay. And the fourth and last sidewalk project that we're requesting a budget amendment on, if you could progress to the next slide, please. This one, I included a picture here. This project also is in a neighborhood, but it is a park project. It's connecting a neighborhood not only to a park, but also to an elementary school. And this segment is Northeast 48th Street. This portion of the project, we're seeing that there's existing sidewalk, but the request here is to replace this sidewalk and to make it more ADA compliant by lowering the grade and bringing it down. As you can see, there's just in front of that sign, there's quite a bit of erosion underneath the sidewalk there that has occurred. And so this one's slightly different request, but again, we're asking for $140,000. And in this case, it's to replace existing sidewalk and bring it into ADA compliance. Are there any questions on this one?
So this is to take up that entire sidewalk and replace it, that's correct?
Sorry, could you repeat that, please?
So this was to take up that entire sidewalk and replace it with a new ADA accessible sidewalk? Thank you.
Yes, yes. And the majority of the cost is is to be able to bring it down to grade, and they'll have to build a retaining wall to do that. And so that's why the additional cost on this project.
Okay, we've had a motion by Sandino Thompson, seconded by Michael Taylor. Please, everyone, vote. The resolution passed. I think that is the end of our sidewalk projects.
Thank you. We'll be moving on now to item 3D1, bicycle facility status update. And the status of the projects here, we have the general purging from May to Penn. We're doing the resurfacing is currently underway, and concrete and resurfacing is currently underway. And from Penn to Western, the same thing here, resurfacing and concrete is underway for this project, but we're also working to coordinate decisions on our parking. There's some concerns for on-street parking in this area here, and we're coordinating with the businesses for that section. And then the section between Western to Lee is in construction and pretty, almost close to complete. The striping, the resurfacing, concrete has been completed, and the striping has been installed there for the bike lanes. The next project on the list is the Lottie Avenue project. I'll discuss that in just a moment. And the other projects are under design. Spring Lake is under design, and Spring Lake Avenue is under design. 25th Street is waiting on supplemental funding, and Villa Central is in design. And Indiana Avenue and Linwood is waiting on a decision for parking and layout. And the Wilshire and 59th Street. The Wilshire project is under scoping, and the 59th Street is in design. The 59th Street one is the one that has the SDBG federal funding associated with it. And then, let's see what else. The Villa, we don't have the Villa North project is, the Villa North and the Grandin Independence projects are also under design. A consultant has been selected for those two projects, and a scoping meeting, a kickoff scoping meeting has been held for that project. Those two projects are the ones that are being worked with in coordination with the BRT project. And so those two had to be put out for advertisement and hired a consultant for those. Are there any questions on the status of the bike facility projects?
So I'll just add that I have seen the painted bike lane between, on Main between Western and Classen, and as far as painted bike lanes go, it looks pretty good. I was kind of curious if there's a reason that that the painted bike lane there is between the parked cars and the travel lane, as opposed to shifting the parking to make it a parking protected bike lane.
Okay, so we have not completed the ordinance. We're working on getting the ordinance for the parking protected bike lanes. Those, it is scheduled to go before the Traffic Commission. It was scheduled for December, but it got postponed. And so we're hoping to get it on the January agenda for the Traffic Commission, and then it'll also have to go before council. So we have not had that approved yet, and so we have not been able to do, and we are looking to do a pilot location first before we are looking to implement it across the board. And so it's a matter of timing of getting the the ordinance approved, and then coordinating it with the most appropriate project to be the pilot for that opportunity.
Okay, thanks. And then with regard to the Independence and Grand and the Villa North, working with the BRT plan, what's the major way that you will be advertising meetings to the community to participate in?
I don't know that answer yet.
Okay,
I will get an answer on you for you on that.
I appreciate it.
Are there any other questions related to the status of our bike projects?
This requires a vote. Do I have a motion for the,
Well, I have not presented to you the Lottie project just
I'm
yet.
very sorry.
That's the one that needs a vote. Right now, I'm just giving you the status of of all of the bike projects. Are there questions on the status of the bike projects?
Not specifically on these projects, but I did want to comment on the South Walker bike lane. It's such an amazing facility, but there is oftentimes a lot of debris and broken glass in that infrastructure, and I'm wondering what efforts are taking place to ensure that the facilities that are built are being maintained.
Thank you, Eric Winger, Public Works Director. So on the bike lane, especially on Walker, as we start to see whether it was tree debris from the October ice storm or we just see general debris, we're starting to work with our utilities department that's responsible for some of our street clearing and cleaning, the street sweeping processes. And so we are looking at that more closely. We have found that that has not been fully coordinated so that we can ensure that we keep those lanes clear, but we are working on that. So the city's street sweeping contracts will generally help assist to keep those clear, but just with some of the storms and some of the issues that we've had over the past couple of months, we're catching up on some of that right now, and so we're just a little bit behind. But the goal is to help keep them clear through street cleaning contracts going forward. Yeah.
Thank you, Eric. Are there any other questions? Okay, that now we'll move on to the next item, which is item 3D2, bicycle infrastructure, recommend budget revision for the Lottie Avenue project. Again, in your packets, there's detailed information on this project. This project was originally budgeted at $639,000. The project, as we have been able to get under our unit price contract, again, we're finding with the paint and the delineators, our price are increasing, and then also to accommodate resurfacing for some of these projects. And so the budget on this project has increased upwards of we need an additional $510,000. I'm excited to let you know, though, that we have submitted this project for a CMAQ, Congestion Mitigation Air Quality Project, through to ACOG, and to receive some of those fundings. We're hoping to be able to be awarded about $160,000 from the CMAQ project, but we will not know of the official award of that project until probably later this month or next month. And so that $510,000, we are asking for the full amount up front because the CMAQ project is a reimbursed project. And so we're hoping to be able to refund or get reimbursed about $160,000 of those funds. So at this time, we are asking again for an increase of $510,000 towards the Lottie Avenue bike project. Are there any questions?
Yeah, I had one question. Sorry. Okay. Did we identify what the finalized design was going to be all the way from, I think it's like 24th Street or something, down to 4th Street, sort of the facilities? So I see in here, I think most of the revisions that were identified are from 8th Street to 4th Street. But did we identify what that design was like between, let's say, 8th Street and 23rd?
Mark, would you mind progressing to the next slide, please? Thank you. This is just a snippet. This is just one sheet of the set of plans, from the plans. This is not the final design. Again, this is one of those other projects where we have an opportunity to consider the parking protected bike lanes. And so again, it's a timing issue. It's kind of like which one's going to make it to the finish line first, almost, as far as the funding and as it relates to getting the ordinance approved. So this is a contender for to be a pilot project, to have the parking protected bike lanes. What you see here, of course, is not. This is just a section starting at 4th Street, and yes, this project does extend. The limits of this project is from 4th Street all the way up to 23rd Street, and then it does cross over 23rd Street. Once it crosses over 23rd Street, it'll be Sharrows for a short segment to connect over to Kelly.
Right.
But the portion south of 23rd all the way down to 4th Street is to have protected bike lanes. And it's to be determined whether or not it's going to be the one to be selected as the pilot for the parking protected bike lanes. Again, it's really just a timing issue.
So I guess, so then approving this request won't impact that, that designation or determination being made?
No, it should not.
Okay. Because I do think, and I don't know if it's the 4th to 8th Street section necessarily, but I know just with the medians and how wide the streets are, definitely from, 10th Street to 23rd Street, I think it would be great to look at something that was parking protected, because there's a lot of on-street parking that is available or allowable in that area. I think in this area between 4th and 8th, there's actually, I don't know if that's on-street parking in that area, so may not be a candidate. So, that's that. You kind of answered one of the other questions I had, which is thinking about the timing of this, because it would really be unfortunate, I think, to miss the opportunity on Lottie for what that kind of bicycle infrastructure could benefit.
Yes, you're correct. From 4th Street about to 8th, maybe all the way up to 13th Street. There are not a lot of properties that face the street. There are not a lot of residences or commercial businesses that would need the on-street parking. So we are not really considering on-street parking or parking protected bike lanes from the segment between 4th up to at least about 13th Street. Once you get north of 13th Street, we do have observed that there is some on-street parking there. We do have some design concerns because there are also bus stops through there. And so we'll have to determine, do some design considerations as it relates to the bus stops and on-street parking. But the opportunity for doing the parking protected bike lanes is most probable just north of 13th Street all the way up to 23rd Street. Are there any other questions about the Lottie project?
Sure. Just in regards to the resurfacing, was the intent here to just be more of a spot resurfacing for the sake of the bike lanes as opposed to a full street resurfacing?
Yes, this one is more spot resurfacing. It's not a full resurfacing for this project.
Okay. And then just out of curiosity, with regard to our citywide list of streets as candidates for resurfacing on how things are ordered based on the hierarchy we've defined, I'm curious where Lottie might fall and if it would make sense to have Lottie jump in the queue to have full resurfacing done as opposed to a spot check now and then resurfacing in a year or two.
I may have to defer to Brock on that question. I know that we have been coordinating. They've done, I must say that Michael, in our coordination with Michael and Brock and all the public works staff, we have been looking at detail at each of the projects and for opportunities for resurfacing and looking at the list of where the projects currently fall as the rating for the PCI rating. We have been coordinating that, so I believe this one wasn't one that fell high enough, because I'm sure we would have discussed that, but I'll again have to defer to Brock on that one.
No, Lakeisha's correct. It has not fallen high enough, but where it falls on the list, I'm not 100% sure, but I can look that and send that to you.
Okay. And would it be possible for you to send out that list as it stands today to everybody on the committee?
Absolutely.
Okay, I'd appreciate that. That would definitely help give us a better picture on how the overall citywide infrastructure fits in together with this picture, as well as answering my own constituents' questions on when their streets might get treated.
Just keep in mind that we constantly look at the paving condition, and we drive those and we reassess those, and obviously with like storm events that we have,
Sure.
a lot of times things will change, so we're constantly reevaluating that, and it's a moving target always.
Understandable, and totally I understand that it's just a single snapshot in time that's subject to change.
Absolutely. Thank you.
And then I guess not
Thank you,
necessarily a question related to Lottie, but I think piggybacking on that overall broader systemic perspective, I know we're only in charge of the sales tax portions of Better Street, Safer City, but it is important to see how the fully connected network interacts together. And so with regard to the bond projects for Better Street, Safer City, I think that would be really useful to have on our overall picture. That's say the first slide of sections 3B, 3C, 3D. So right now, the pictures that you've been showing has just been the sales tax projects as opposed to sales tax plus bond projects. And I just think that would be really helpful to have a more synthesized picture of what's going on.
Okay, yes, we can do
And
that.
if I recall in November's meeting, I know I wasn't there, but I watched it later, Ms. Dunbar, you did talk to some of the bond projects, and so I definitely appreciate you providing that perspective.
Thank you. We'll definitely try to we will get you an overall picture of how all of the funded projects, so what I'm hearing you say, you'd like to see how all of the funded projects are overlapping with each other, is that correct?
Yeah, and not necessarily if they're overlapping or if one impacts another, but just to get a more citywide connected picture of what's currently being done under the different funding avenues.
We can do that.
I appreciate it.
I thank you. Are there any other questions regarding the Lottie Avenue project request for additional funding?
This calls for a motion. Lakeisha, I would thank you for your ability to answer questions so well as they're thrown at you. I think you and Brock always seem to have an answer, and for that I'm very thankful. This motion to increase the budget to 510,439 has been moved by Sandino Thompson, seconded by Chris Dahlgren. Please vote. The motion has passed. Thank you very much.
That concludes my report on the status of bicycle projects and sidewalk projects at this time. I will turn it over to Brock. Thank you.
Thank you. I have E-Trails.
Yep, item 3E1. I'll give the status update. It hasn't changed a whole lot since the last time we talked, but some things that have happened. Obviously, we've finished Burt Cooper, we've finished Overholster, we've finished the Overholster to Hefner Trail. We've started on the South River Trail, and we have finished the South Oklahoma River Trail. So that project's complete. I think we're waiting on striping. We're just trying to get the right temperatures to get the stripe down on that project. But we had some issues getting some access through the Dale property, but that was worked out and agreed to. And so we've got in there and we have finished the resurfacing part of that project, and we're just waiting on the striping on all that, and temperatures kind of our factor that we're waiting on there. So we will jump across and start on the North Oklahoma River Trail once that project is complete and finalized. We've started on the Katy Trail, and progress is moving on. And obviously, some of the new trails that are being worked on is the Deep Fork, of course, and then the Hefner Trail behind the dam. We're finishing the bidding documents on that. We will put that out to bid, so we'll finish the bidding documents and we'll bid that project before, hopefully in February, late February, that project should be bid out. And that's all the status I have, unless y'all have any more questions.
Any questions on trails? Section 5. F.
Thank y'all. I'll turn it over to the item 3F1 implementation plan to Mike Clark.
The January implementation plan update includes the following budget revisions. PR 1819 in the street resurfacing category, Windsor 2, Ralph Downs, Harvest Hills, and E.W. Perry in the sidewalks category, and Lottie Avenue in the bicycle infrastructure category, all at an estimated cost of $1,429,639. If there are no questions, I would ask for you to receive the January 21 implementation plan update and recommend its adoption to City Council.
Requires a vote. Waiting for a move. Moved by Don Noble, seconded by Anthony Carfang. Waiting for a vote. Please vote. The measure is passed. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good morning, Lori Hurd from the Budget Office. The next item is the financial summary report. Revenues were at $261,597,326 as of November 30th. This is a $230,000 increase from the last meeting, which was due to interest and the monthly sales tax reallocation. Total allocations were at $242 million, which is a 1.8% increase from the last meeting. And with that, I'll take any questions. Thank you.
This requires a motion to be received. Moved by Sandino Thompson, seconded by Anthony Carfang. Please vote. Thank you very much for the financial report. That's been approved. The director.
Thank you again, Board. Eric Winger, Public Works Director. I appreciate the start to 2021, so welcome to the renovated council chambers. Hopefully, it looks like everybody was able to use the new systems just fine. Going forward for this year, unless there's some change, we'll continue to do in-person meetings for Citizens Advisory Board. So what you can look for in this year, and one of the things that you saw early in the meeting, most of the funding allocations have been completed for the streets, also the trails projects, but we still have a number of funds that can be allocated towards the street enhancements and then also the bicycle. So as we move forward into February and March, we may have some additional recommendations for you as we look at those allocations to bring those up into that 90% range. Other items that you can look forward to is us completing a lot of the preliminary reports for projects, whether they're the streetscapes or the bikes. A couple of the questions that came up today as well, showing you some of the construction drawings before we actually get those ready for construction. So if you have any questions of staff, please don't hesitate to reach out to them during the next month if something were to come up before the next meeting. But again, we're looking at final allocations this year. We're also looking forward to bringing you the 2020 annual report, hopefully in the next month as well. So that report is underway. It does have year-end financials through December 31st, so we're collecting all that information from just a few days ago, and we'll get that wrapped into that report, but we hope to present that to you soon as well. But with that, we appreciate your time. I'd be happy to answer any other questions you might have. Jeff Butler is also available today from the Planning Department if there's any questions that Jeff or I can address.
Nothing from me.
Great.
I did not know I was going to chair today, so I think we've made it fairly well with our new process. Fortunately, we've been doing something very similar at home.
Absolutely.
Anyway, are there any comments from the board?
Thank you.
Any more comments from staff this afternoon? I'm sorry, do we have a board comment?
Yeah, actually, I've got a few things. So just for everybody's awareness, now that the new state legislature is in session, Senator Carrie Hicks will be introducing Senate Bill 184. This is related to e-bike legislation related to e-bikes on trails. Currently, as the statute reads, Class 1 and Class 2 e-bikes are allowed on trails and Class 3 are prohibited unless local authority designates otherwise. The language kind of switches that so that Class 1, 2, and 3 will be allowed at the state level unless locally otherwise. There are a couple of other provisions in there, so it's probably worth taking a look, and I know there are some conversations going on in various municipalities about that as well. So it's important just to pay attention to the state level activity there. more sensitive note, so we are on day 4 of 2021, and I'm really happy to be beyond 2020. But there are a couple of things that just really emphasize the significance of what the city staff is doing with regard to safer road infrastructure and what our committee is overseeing. On Saturday, at around 6 p.m., near Southwest 36th and Western, a pedestrian was hit by a driver of a car. They were in critical condition. I don't know the status since then, but there is a bike trail that crosses, or that is in the median at 36th. In order to safely cross that, in order to safely cross Western, a pedestrian or biker needs to use the crosswalk to cross 36th, and then the crosswalk to cross Western, and then the crosswalk to cross 36th to get back to the trail. So 3 light cycles there, which isn't necessarily the most inviting, and it kind of invites people to not obey crosswalks simply because of how inconvenient it might be. And I don't know if that was a factor in the incident on Saturday afternoon, but it's something to keep in mind. Some even sadder news, this morning at around 6 a.m., a bicyclist was riding in the vicinity of a park around Meridian and 14th, where a driver hit them and killed them. So I asked about street enhancement project number 9, specifically the timeline, because that street enhancement project could have made a difference in this person's life. When we focus on how people react to the environment in which they're presented, it's very clear throughout the country and locally that roads that are designed to be really wide and focus purely on level of service of cars, as has historically been done for the past 40 years, it induces speed. It induces an authority or an assumption that drivers are allowed all authority. Their time is more important than anybody else's. So the designs that we put into our streets here impact the lives of everybody, not just pedestrians and bicyclists, but safer roads lead to fewer car-to-car crashes. So better health for people who are in cars, less workload for police officers, less burden for emergency services and hospitals, which is kind of key right now. So I just really want to emphasize the importance of everything that we're doing in terms of infrastructure throughout the city. And even though it's winter, even though it recently snowed, I biked here today. People are out there biking. People enjoy the recreation, especially with COVID. They need to get out and some mental release. There are more people walking than ever before. So I also behoove anybody out there to not only take care of themselves, but for drivers as well, to look out for other drivers, pedestrians, bicyclists, scooters, et cetera. So yeah, I just want to leave with that.
Any other comments from the board? COVID has certainly caused us to reevaluate many things in our daily lives as they once were and what they may be again. You are right, we are seeing more and more people out because there's so little else to do, and they are exercising more and they're out, and hopefully what we are doing will really protect more people and keep more of us safe. Thank you for those comments. Anything else from staff today? Thank you very much. We appreciate all of you. It's been a long time since we've seen most of you. And we're kind of glad to be back, even though it's an augmented situation. Do we have any comments from citizens today? Well, okay. With that, I think we will adjourn the January meeting of the Oklahoma Neighborhood Enhancement Advisory Board. Thank you very much. Good evening.